Every time you fill up your gas tank, something extraordinary happens that most people never think about. The price you pay, whether in euros, rupees, or reais, traces back to a single currency, the United States dollar. This is not an accident. It is the result of a carefully constructed financial architecture built over 50 years ago, one that has shaped global power, trade, and politics in ways that are still unfolding today. The system is called the petrodollar, and understanding it means understanding why the dollar has been the undisputed king of global finance, and why that reign may now be facing its most serious challenge in history. To grasp how the petrodollar works, you have to go back to 1971. Before that year, the dollar was tied to gold under the Bretton Woods system. Every dollar in circulation was theoretically backed by a fixed amount of gold held in United States reserves. But as the Vietnam War drained American finances and global demand for dollars grew faster than gold supplies, President Richard Nixon made a historic decision. He ended the dollar's convertibility to gold, effectively ending Bretton Woods. The world suddenly had a major problem. If the dollar was no longer backed by gold, why should anyone trust it? The answer came in 1974 through a secret agreement between the United States and Saudi Arabia. The deal was straightforward but revolutionary. Saudi Arabia would price its oil exclusively in dollars. In return, the United States would provide military protection and security guarantees to the Saudi kingdom. Other members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries followed suit, and just like that, oil, the most traded commodity on the planet, became permanently linked to the dollar. The petrodollar system was born. The genius of the petrodollar system lies in the demand it creates. Because oil is priced in dollars, every country in the world that needs to buy oil must first acquire dollars. This creates a constant, massive, and self-sustaining global demand for the United States currency. Countries hold dollars in their foreign reserves, not because they particularly love America, but because they need dollars to participate in the global energy market. This structural demand gives the United States an extraordinary privilege that economists call exorbitant privilege. What does this privilege actually look like in practice? It means the United States can run large trade deficits without facing the currency crises that would cripple other nations. It means the United States government can borrow money at lower interest rates than almost any other country because global investors always want dollar-denominated assets. It means American consumers can buy foreign goods at relatively cheaper prices because the dollar's global demand keeps its value elevated. In short, the petrodollar system allows the United States to live beyond its means in ways that would be economically impossible for any other nation. The recycling of petrodollars added another layer to this power structure. When oil exporting nations earned massive dollar revenues, they needed somewhere to put that money. They invested heavily in United States Treasury bonds, American real estate, and Wall Street financial products. This recycling of petrodollars back into the American financial system helped fund United States government spending, kept interest rates low, and deepened the integration between global oil wealth and American financial markets. The dollar was not just a currency anymore. It was the operating system of the global economy. For decades, this system hummed along with remarkable stability. But starting in the 2000s and accelerating dramatically through the 2010s and 2020s, cracks began to appear. The first major stress came from the United States itself. As America's share of global gross domestic product declined, relative to rising powers like China and India, the logic of a unipolar dollar system started to feel increasingly outdated to many nations. Then came the weaponization of the dollar. The United States has long used its control over the dollar-based financial system as a geopolitical tool, imposing sanctions on countries like Iran, Venezuela, and North Korea by cutting them off from dollar-denominated transactions. But the real turning point came in February 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine. The United States and its allies froze approximately $300 billion of Russian central bank reserves held in Western financial institutions. For many countries watching from the sidelines, this was a wake-up call. If Russia's reserves could be frozen overnight, so could theirs. This moment supercharged what economists and geopolitical analysts call de-dollarization, the gradual process by which countries reduce their dependence on the United States dollar in international trade and reserves. Suddenly, de-dollarization was not just an academic concept discussed in economics journals. It became an urgent strategic priority for a growing number of nations that feared being on the wrong side of American foreign policy. The most significant challenge to the petrodollar has come from China. For years, Beijing has been building the infrastructure for a dollar-free trading system. The Chinese yuan, also known as the renminbi, has been increasingly used in bilateral trade deals. China launched the Shanghai International Energy Exchange in 2018, allowing oil futures to be traded in yuan for the first time. This was a direct challenge to the dollar's monopoly on oil pricing. Saudi Arabia, the very country whose agreement with the United States created the petrodollar system, has been openly discussing accepting yuan payments for oil sold to China. In 2023, Saudi Arabia joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a dialogue partner and deepened its economic ties with Beijing. The symbolism was hard to miss. The kingdom that anchored the petrodollar system was hedging its bets. The BRICS bloc, originally comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has been another focal point of de-dollarization efforts. At the 2023 BRICS summit in Johannesburg, the group announced a historic expansion, inviting 6 new members including Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Iran, and Egypt. Discussions about creating a BRICS currency or a common trading mechanism to bypass the dollar have intensified, though significant practical obstacles remain. The combined economic weight of an expanded BRICS represents a substantial portion of global gross domestic product and a majority of the world's oil production, a combination that gives these discussions real strategic weight. Despite all these developments, declaring the dollar dead would be a serious mistake. The dollar's dominance rests on foundations that go far deeper than any single agreement or political relationship. The United States has the world's largest and most liquid financial markets. American Treasury bonds remain the global safe haven asset of choice during times of crisis, even crises caused by America itself. The dollar accounts for roughly 58% of global foreign exchange reserves, a figure that has declined from about 70% 2 decades ago, but remains overwhelmingly dominant compared to any competitor. The yuan, despite China's ambitions, faces structural limitations. China maintains strict capital controls, meaning foreign investors cannot freely move money in and out of Chinese financial markets. Trust and transparency in Chinese financial institutions remain concerns for many global investors. A reserve currency requires not just economic size but deep, open, and trustworthy financial markets, qualities that take generations to build. What is more likely than a sudden dollar collapse is a gradual, messy, and uneven transition toward a more multipolar currency world. In this scenario, the dollar remains the dominant global currency, but shares more space with the yuan, the euro, and potentially new digital currency systems. Regional trading blocs may increasingly settle transactions in their own currencies, reducing but not eliminating dollar dependence. Central bank digital currencies, being developed by dozens of countries including China, could eventually create new payment rails that bypass dollar-dominated systems entirely. The petrodollar system, built on a handshake between Nixon's America and Saudi Arabia's oil wealth, transformed the global financial order for half a century. It funded American power, subsidized American consumption, and made the dollar the indispensable currency of global commerce. But the world that created the petrodollar, a unipolar world with America at its unchallenged center, is changing. Rising powers are building alternatives. Geopolitical fractures are deepening, and the weaponization of financial systems is pushing more countries to seek exits from dollar dependency. Whether the dollar loses its throne or simply learns to share it, the era of unquestioned petrodollar supremacy is entering a new and uncertain chapter. The decisions made by governments, central banks, and energy producers over the next decade will determine whether the dollar's empire endures, evolves, or gradually fades into a more crowded and contested financial landscape. What is certain is that the stakes could not be higher for America, for global markets, and for every person whose daily life is quietly shaped by the invisible architecture of the petrodollar system.